Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast, where we empower through innovation. I'm Allison Lacusier, your host, and each week we'll explore the mindset and the skill set of creating a successful practice and life for women in business. From the latest in dental technology to mastering marketing strategies, creating team synergy, cultivating a powerful money mindset, this podcast is your resource to empower yourself and your team to have the most success possible. Whether you're an established business professional or just beginning your journey, we're here to help you unlock your full potential, lead with confidence, and have an incredible journey along the way. Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Welcome to another episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. I am here with the amazing, credible, and very, very stylish Sheena Hinson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to finally be able to join in.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to have you too, because from the moment I met you, you were like one of those people that I'm like, I need to know her. I need to spend time with her. She's so stylish. She's so smart. She's so well spoken. She's just a rock star in the industry. And I'm so glad that we get to have some of your expertise on the show so that our women in this community can benefit from your knowledge. So go ahead and just share with them a little bit about what you're currently working on in the industry and what your kind of background in dentistry is.
Yeah, so my background in dentistry is actually clinical dental hygiene. And then I went into practice consulting really a little unintentionally, which is a great compliment. And then in doing that, I realized that there are a lot of industry supporting companies that could use some guidance when it comes to their go-to-market strategy and really making sure if they've got a product or a service or technology, how can that realistically be integrated into the workflow on a practice level in a way that's sustainable for their business. So now a lot of what I do is actually working with industry supporting companies in more advisory type roles, business development. So
So
I really just have a passion for helping other people win, and here we are.
I love that. Oh my gosh. And one of the things we were talking about off the show was how important, like really how important it is to integrate technology in the modern world. And that is something that you are an expert in, is helping practices like understand the benefit of technology, understand why this is a focus that we need to have, which is one of the core beliefs that women in digital dentistry is that innovation is at the forefront of everything we do. So how did you get so passionate about that? Like, how is that really something that's been part of your story?
So I would say just utilizing it, and sometimes very hesitantly when I was at the practice level. When you adopt a new technology, whether it be like a scanning product or a SaaS product, there's a big learning curve. I mean, even going from one PMS to another is a nightmare, right? So a lot of it I kind of had to learn, but in doing that, it really gave me insight into how to optimize the use of it. Like, it's one thing from an analytic standpoint, for example, to know, okay, here's where we are, here's how we're performing, maybe even knowing here's where we need to be. But realistically, how can we take that product and use it to really gain traction at a practice level, right? Like, what does that translate to if I'm telling let's just say a hygiene department, okay, well, you can say you need to do more perio, right? But how can you really utilize those metrics to enable them to elevate their standard of care, or the standard of care that they want to serve? They just don't really know how to put it all together. So just bridging that through, and then a genuine curiosity about other, technologies and services and products in the industry, just really digging in and learning about them and figuring out, what works well, what doesn't. There are a lot of great products and technologies that look good on a pitch deck, but the reality at a practice level is, this may not integrate so well, or it's something that, we only have so many minutes in the day at a practice level. Is this something that's going to ease stress for the providers? And so really just learning what's out there, and some of it trying myself. Yeah, I just got very passionate about it. And I guess it was from curiosity.
I have a belief that technology implementation allows us to quantum leap our growth, our effectiveness, our strategy, our care for patients. And in my opinion, quantum leaping and massive growth is a very feminine aspect of how women think and operate and how female business owners can really grow. And so I want to know from you and your expertise, like as a practice owner, like as a female practice owner, when you decide that you want to implement technology, what have been some of the most like robust, successful, just complete ways that we can take a new technology and roll it out in a practice that we're actually using it and it's actually doing what we want it to do?
I think number one, before you even look at technologies, period, you need to know, like, what am I trying to accomplish here? Like, what is the vision of my practice, right? Like, what is our mission day to day? And, many times providers put that together. They get it for their practice financing, right? And then they're like, oh, yeah, that just kind of something we had to check off and core values. But I think to really gain traction with anything, you've got to make sure that everybody on your team understands what you're trying to achieve, right? And it's far beyond the numbers. Numbers are just the way that we look to know, that's our facts over feelings. It's a very objective way to look to see, like, okay, this is the level of care that we've committed to as a practice or as a department even, and that is just your, again, facts over feelings. So I would say first of all is to make sure you know what you're trying to accomplish as a practice as a whole. And then when you do adopt a new, let's just say a SaaS product, spend the time training your team on what to do and how to maximize it. Don't just say, oh, it's a login, figure it out. And I mean, there are things when it comes to training and, team building, all of these, it's not a bunch of kumbaya nonsense, which is where I think a lot of people believe it is. But if you can take that time and look at it as an investment of time versus an expense of time. How many times do you hear practice owners say, well, I can't afford to take time to train my team. We can't block off production. We can't do this. You can, it's just not a priority. But this is one of those things that if it's done right, you're going to see this, like the ROI on that time investment, come back tenfold. Otherwise, you're going to do it haphazardly. And then you're going to come back in, I don't know, a week, 4 weeks, maybe 2 days and say, oh, my team has it, but we're just not getting any results. But you've got to train them to a high level. And a lot of times this is something, you know, delegate and elevate. Find somebody, maybe even if you're like, well, we can't bring someone from the outside in to train us on this or how to optimize it. Find somebody in your practice that's really good at technology. Let them take the lead on it and really be almost an ambassador of that. And that is really game changing. But
Mhm.
once you train to a high level, it's much easier to put accountability in place to make sure that, everybody's continuing to row in the same direction. And, they all get what their piece of the puzzle looks like versus,
Yeah,
oh, let's do more of this, let's do more of that. But really taking it, personalizing it in a lot of ways, to team member to team member. I think that is the crucial point.
100%. Oh my gosh, I love that. So basically, make sure that the technology is aligned to your vision and your goals of the practice. Like you're really clear why you're doing this in the first place. And then you slow down to speed up and you make sure everyone's trained. You have an advocate in the practice that's responsible and accountable for it. And really make sure everyone's elevated to that level of technology. So good. So, so good.
That is the key. That is the key. And they all need to understand, what can I do to impact this? Right? If
Mhm.
we're like, oh, we need to do more, aligner cases, right? Well, what is the dental hygienist part in that? What is the dentist part in that? What is the dental assistant's part in that? And how can they personally measure their success? Because what is measured improves. This is a no-brainer. But really letting them know, hey, we're looking at numbers around this, but it's not because numbers and production are the most important thing. That's just our metric. And that is game changing for practices.
100%. It truly is. And I see this, like I sense this, that this is going to become even more important than ever before with AI being such a tool that dentistry is going to have and it already has. But it really is, it's the way we make things easier for us as clinicians, as team members, as business owners. But there is that element of like, we have to slow down, understand it, and then we get to speed up exponentially once it's implemented.
Yes, it's not going to come in like a magic wand, or, a lot of times you'll hear, well, the data's not right. Well, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if, depending on the product, if it's a credible thing, if we're doing everything right on the back end, then the numbers are going to reflect that. And if they don't, then you've got some problems on the back end. So really, instead of looking for, well, this isn't right because, it's like, well, let me see why this might not be right. And really shifting that mindset. And same thing with your team members. You know, this is an opportunity for improvement. It's an opportunity for growth. And, with technology, there's AI is really intelligent, but somebody has to be intelligent enough to put it in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
There's only so much that can be delegated to technology. And I think for a lot of people that still work in the practice level, this is going to increase the value above your head, because if you're not getting with the times, like, you're behind already. And so I think really, taking personal initiative to, like, hey, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to, figure out how I can use it to be more successful for this practice or for this group. Um, I think, it's a groundswell, right? It's going to help the practice win. It helps the employees be more valuable and, frankly, indispensable if they know how to really leverage the technology, whether it be, something that they're using like a scanner or like a perio charting software. So just kind of taking that initiative and looking at it like, how can I, adopt this in a way that works and is impactful, versus let me figure out all the reasons I don't want to use it.
100%. Oh my gosh. That was the reason why when I was a treatment coordinator, dental assistant, I became the office manager at 24 years old because I was really good at technology and I knew how to operate it. I knew how to use it. And I became that like go-to person in the practice very fast. Like, oh, ask Allison how to do that. And the reality is any one of our team members can do that right now, but they just have to have the initiative.
Yeah.
So we have, I think, four generations that are in the workforce today. Like we have young team members, we have team members that are, in their final years of working, but the gap between their knowledge and comfortability around technology sometimes causes difficulty when we're changing technology, implementing technology. Can you speak to that? Like, how does a practice owner navigate, our employees who've been there with us for 20 years and who are like, I do not even want to look at the computer, to the younger team members who are like whizzes on a computer, and then training them towards the technology together?
I think there are two pieces to that. I think one is, at some point you have to make an executive decision. This is something that we're adopting. This is something that, I've done research on. I see value in, as a practice or a group owner or an executive, whatever the decision maker capacity is, and just saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. But then not just ruling with an iron fist, but really spending time, with your team members and figuring out where do their strengths lie. And, if you've got a younger team member that's great at technology, let them kind of own part of it. It's the same thing, like, I'm going to use a different example that's not really technology. So let's say you're in you could do this with dentist or a hygiene department, but you've got a dental hygienist that, like, she masters perio. She loves to do, periodontal therapy, but she cannot stand to do the new patient thing. It's maybe overwhelming because taking the photos, doing a digital scan, doing the x-rays. And if you can still make it make sense, let them lean into what they're great at naturally. Of course, there's got to be proficiencies across the board. It can't be, no, I don't do that. But lean into their strengths. And so, same thing with technology. If you've got, a digital scanner and you've got, one employee that, like, scans like this, they just pick it up, they get it. But you've got another one that you find, they're practicing, but maybe they're just not as quick. Figure out how you can make that work in your workflow and leverage the strengths. And I think that is a crucial way to be successful, and really creating that environment to where people are not scared to say, you know what, this isn't my best strength. Like, I notice you're really great at that. Can you help me? Or, again, from a leadership standpoint, saying, look, I see this right here is maybe not as natural to you, but let's see what we can make fit. And I think that level of adaptability is really what sets a lot of organizations apart, like the good and the great, because they understand, we talk about capital and EBITDA and all these things, but human capital, that's
Mhm.
where we have a lot of turnover in the DSO space and I mean, of course, in solo practices. So how can we adapt with the humans in a way that is authentic and that we are trying to help them grow where their strengths do lie. Like the Clifton Strengths Assessment is one of my favorite assessments, but really leaning into that. Like you may have someone, this is maybe a little different than technology, but you may have someone that's great at collecting, but maybe
Yeah.
when they call to get someone to schedule unscheduled treatment, they just don't have the best success. But then you've got someone else that, it's vice versa. So I think really leaning into that, and not being like everybody has to do it and everybody has to be, the same level of proficiency. I mean, because the reality is we have people in the workforce now that have been on technology since they were toddlers. So there are different skill levels, right? So I think that, flexibility is can be pivotal.
100%. And how supported and beautiful of a culture would you have if that was the case? Like, really, that's the practice that everybody would want to work in. So, from your perspective right now, what are the technologies that you are like non-negotiable? You gotta like leverage these automations or this AI or these technologies that you're just seeing absolutely transform practices today.
So I would say, of course, an analytics platform. Personally, I love dental intelligence. There are some other great ones out there, practice by numbers, but utilizing something like that. And so many times you'll hear, okay, well, we have all this data in our practice management software. Of course you do. But this serves it up on a platter. It's a way that's more digestible. You can pull this in with your patient communications, and it is just efficiency. Um, so I would say that number one, especially when it comes to like your confirmations and pulling the right you know, patients to schedule. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen when I was in practices where, you show them like how to find patients and how to really optimize their time, but they're still printing out that recall list out of their practice management software. And I don't know if you've probably done this back in the day too. You kind of mark them off as you go,
Yeah.
and then by the time you get to page two, this is already like way outdated. So,
Yeah.
and those are one of the instances where leadership has to say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to adopt it. And this is just what makes sense. Um, so I would say that for sure. And now, you can do online scheduling and, of course, forms. And even you hear a lot of pushback with the forms with the elderly population. But it's funny, I feel like in the bulk of my experience, they were more compliant doing their
Yeah.
forms before they came into the office, right? So there's really no excuse. I think whether it's treatment acceptance or utilizing technology, I think we can't assume that our patients can't or they won't utilize something like that. So I think number one, starting there. Number two, whenever you are, clinical, making sure that you're optimizing your, whatever photography tools you have. That is one of the easiest things you
Yeah.
can do. Digital scanning, of course. And this is not just for if we want to do clear aligner cases, which I know you can vouch to this. This is literally letting them see what's on the screen. And then it's so much more efficient. So if you do have a patient that's like, oh, you know what, I need to get a night guard or they want to get whitening trays, something like that, you've already got the darn scan.
Yeah.
So it's a win all around. And once someone trains and, invest in time for them to practice scanning, things like that, then you're going to save so much time on the other end and you're really going to increase your profitability considerably. Not to mention it's convenient for the patient because they don't have to come back for a scan. The doctors don't have to clear their operatory for a scan, right? If you can do it at that new patient visit or even recare. Um, Another one that is high on my list is for perio charting. Like Alta is my favorite. They've got a lot of AI pieces, and I won't even try to translate all the AI voodoo, but it's very good for accents. Some people might notice my accent, but something like that to really optimize what they're doing chair side. But I think what that does in addition to, the way we explain things to patients is it backs you up. It's not, I think many patients kind of come in and they're like, well, I know I had those measurements last time, but they think and there can be variation if offices aren't doing like a diagnostic calibration, but I think it really takes that out of it. So it's like, oh, that, that program was, making a noise I didn't like, something's not right. So it really backs up your credibility as a clinician, as well. And then of course, when it comes to patient education, like Tooth Authority, I love they've got videos that are great, and like a chair side. Because how many times have you tried to like show a patient? I know back in the day, I'm like, this is your tooth, this is your gums, and this is where we measure, right? So it just simplifies. And then if you're good with technology on your marketing side, you can put that on your website. That boosts your organic SEO. There's just so many pieces for, a win for your patients and for the practice. Not to mention it saves chair time when you're trying to translate all this stuff to a patient. But those
Yes.
are some of my favorites.
I love it. I love it so much. And it's exciting. Like I'm so excited about the digital technology that we have like access to, and just, compared to when I first started in dentistry, so much has changed, and it's so fun to be in a really digital practice now, and the patient feels it, the team feels it, and it can be so beautiful when we get this optimized. But you're right, like we have to slow down to speed up. So I want to just thank you for the work that you do in our industry to help support practices with this, to help support the companies that are serving the practices to be better equipped to make incredible products. This is such an incredible space that you live in. And I'm just so honored that we get to have your experience in the women in digital dentistry community. And so thank you. If people want to learn more about you, work with you, get to know you more, where can they find you?
The most efficient way would probably be through LinkedIn. Otherwise, my email, it's Sheena at Uplevel Practice Solutions. And I'm happy to, have a chat and see if there's a way we can support one another. Otherwise, get you to the right person to get you to another level.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think you're a rock star. I hope we get to walk down the
Thank
road
you, my dear.
together at Do at some point because it was
Yes, yes.
and I just want to thank you for being on Women in Digital Dentistry podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies, see you on our next episode. And please go and give Sheena some love. Follow her. All of her information is in the show notes below. And we will see you on another episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. We hope you found today's discussion inspiring and full of actionable insights to help you thrive in your practice and beyond. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who would benefit from these conversations, please share this podcast with them. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so feel free to leave us a review or connect with us on social media. Together, we are building a powerful community of women leading the way in digital dentistry. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making a difference in the world of dentistry. Thanks for listening.